I don't care if you're a shit-kicking hick or a woke hipster asshole. We're all getting screwed by the man. Haven't you ever fantasized about changing that? Creating a better system that included people like us? One that addressed our needs? One that didn't allow corporations to constantly chisel us? We need to start organizing the mass population under a new banner to create a true working class party that will advocate not just for changes to our economic system, but necessary changes to our political system as well. Now, the American conversation in politics is so short-sighted and without context that the moment a person starts talking about anything besides the Democrats or the Republicans, that person is instantly suspected of secretly working as a mole for one side or the other. This is the zero-sum nature of two-party politics. What hurts one helps the other. It should be no secret that I hold both major parties in contempt, and I think you should too. The major parties do not care about you unless you are rich. You may think that the Democrats or the Republicans talk a good game, but never forget what Nixon's Attorney General John Mitchell said. Watch what we do, not what we say. I've been watching for a long time, and I can tell you, neither major party cares about the public interest. They only care about preserving their own power. It should be obvious that neither party is looking out for our best interest. When is the last time either party made a law that significantly changed your life for the better? There is a big assumption in our society, enabled by the mass media, that presidential politics is about the only politics that matters in this country. By that I mean the horse race for president. Who's up? Who's down? Then there's another assumption, which is that if I talk about third parties, I must naturally be talking about the 2024 presidential election, because that's the only political conversation worth having at the moment. I don't think we should confine our focus solely to next year's race for president. There are literally thousands of other elected offices in this country. A great many go uncontested. For example, 42% of state legislative and assembly races went unchallenged in 2016. I talk about forming a new party because changing our system requires more than one candidate. We all want a hero, but a president can't fix this. Changing our broken, dysfunctional system requires many candidates. It needs to be a movement. We need to start thinking beyond the next election, beyond what's right in front of us. Conventional wisdom says that because of winner take all, it doesn't make sense to have third parties because they can only act as spoilers. Conventional wisdom says that we can't have third parties until we have ranked choice voting. But of course, neither of the two major parties are going to change anything about a system that gives them those advantages. So I guess we're stuck. This is how the two-party system protects itself. They don't make it easy. Change will never happen unless we force change. Forcing change can't happen unless we organize. If neither of the major parties will represent the working class majority in this country, it is necessary to organize a better alternative. A new political organization is my suggestion. Because, as Bernie Sanders proved, if you try to work within the Democratic or Republican Party, then the courts say those parties can cheat and hand victory to whomever they please. There are no easy answers. Any change carries its own risk and reward. Everyone wants a quick fix. Everyone wants easy answers. The way to fix our problems is not to do what we have already done. Sadly, voting blue or red will not change anything about the existing power arrangement. Corporations and the rich on top, everybody else struggling just to get by. As Frank Zappa once said, without deviation from the norm, progress is not possible. And yet, the major parties are scared. They know the working class is getting fed up. But all they can do is perpetuate the current broken status quo. Is that what you want? Or are you willing to dream a little bigger? Are you willing to try and come up with something better? Are you able to generate even a little hope that we can make the U.S. a better place for our children and grandchildren? Or are you going to listen to the conventional wisdom and the conventional thinking that tells you there is no alternative, there is no hope, we can't change anything? So shut up and vote for the lesser of two evils, because that's the best you'll ever get. The rich and corporations have two parties looking out for their interests. The working class has none. The ruts of the existing political system are too deep. The major parties have no interest in upsetting today's power balance in favor of the public interest. Neither major party wants to risk upsetting their corporate sponsors and losing the financial support they both depend on. The conventional thinking is not in our favor. That doesn't matter. Mahatma Gandhi knew a thing or two about challenging entrenched power. The conventional wisdom in the early part of the 20th century would never have believed that independence was even a possibility for India. Remember, the sun never used to set on the British Empire. Gandhi had a famous quote that applies here. He said, "First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win." There is wisdom in that quote, but not the conventional kind. I don't believe the conventional wisdom. I recognize there are institutional and structural barriers to change, and that it is our duty to challenge and dismantle them. That can't happen if we accept conventional thinking. The old ways aren't working. We need to start imagining something better. We need to come up with a plan for what happens next. No one is representing workers, the people who live paycheck to paycheck, who make up 61% of the American population. That's a majority that is basically unrepresented in our government. I'm here to say it doesn't have to be that way. 61% is a big number. There is an angry majority simmering in this country. It is more than possible to craft a political platform that they would support more than they support either major party. It's not even hard to start coming up with ideas that they would support. Subsidize childcare so that a parent, usually a mother, is not forced to hit pause on their career for years because all of their pay is going to daycare. Unwinding massive college, mortgage, and credit card debt so that huge chunks of our paycheck don't go directly to banks. Universal health care is another big one. Most other industrialized wealthy countries have free national health care with better health outcomes that cost way less. Neither major party is advocating to change any of this. Seems like a big opportunity to me, but neither corporate-sponsored party is willing to threaten the profits of our healthcare industry or the banks or any other profit-making enterprise that pays to keep them in power. The mass population in this country is intentionally divided in a bunch of different ways. Democrat versus Republican, rural versus urban, white versus black and brown, young versus old, blue collar versus college educated, straight versus LGBTQ, men versus women. It's sad, but as I said, it is intentional. When we're at each other's throats, we're not challenging power. I don't care if you're a shit-kicking hick or a woke hipster asshole. We're all getting screwed by the man. Haven't you ever fantasized about changing that? Creating a better system that included people like us? One that addressed our needs? One that didn't allow corporations to constantly chisel us? Majority rule. That's the goal and the selling point. The majority wants their say. The system is stopping us. Therefore, we must organize to change the system and change the way it is rigged against us. When you have a majority, you can do that. We can do that. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Please give a like, follow, favorite, and subscribe to my free Substack. Let's make them pay.